All right. Just the same as yesterday. Once it goes live, I'll share it. If you can share it, that'd be great. It's going to be on the TED Show page, like
Okay,
yesterday.
gotcha.
Okay, I think we are live, my friend. All right. Guys, a few minutes behind thanks to my technical challenges. We are back for part two of Rise and Fall and Rise Again with the one and only Chris Coburn. So you left off at this big spot yesterday because of my schedule. So thanks for coming back. And I don't know if you remember, I'll let you deep dive, or I can kind of give you an idea where we were at if you'd like, but I think you probably know exactly where we were at now. So
Yeah.
dive in. We're on a time frame today, and I want people to hear the rest of the story. So welcome back, Chris.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely.
Okay, so from where we left off, I was just convicted of 7 felony counts.
Yeah, the 7 felony counts,
years.
I think I had nightmares about.
Facing 65 years. So when my attorney was supposed to file the motion for acquittal and failed at that, I asked him, would he do anything else? He said no. I got upset. I stayed awake for 48 hours straight, and I uncovered a lot of things enough to actually have the court appoint a third attorney. There was a woman, her initials are SA, and she counted for 5 counts of bankruptcy fraud. Now, in her deposition in 2014, which she said she didn't remember, she explicitly stated that her and I never discussed bankruptcy, because we really did. She said that in her deposition. Now, this lady, SA, also filed bankruptcy prior to ever meeting me. So you have to ask yourself, why would she pay me to do something that she obviously knows how to do on her own? There were 4 bankruptcies filed in her name, but there were only 2 checks written to me, and the 2 checks were for a loan modification. That's what it was for, but she never actually finished paying the amount that she was supposed to pay. Now, what ended up happening with her is what I found out was this. The prosecutor on my case, he was aware of who she was because your record, I noticed that there was a name that kept popping up. And the name was GG, as I say in my video. On her loan modification request, GG was there. On her mediation, GG was a witness. On her original loan documents, GG was also a witness on the loan documents. So I went through this entire thing trying to figure out who this GG person was, and I looked up GG and found out that he was actually indicted and convicted in 2018. His wife was a loan officer, and she was overcharging people points on loans and then giving them a kickback. So when I read SA's memorandum of activity, which the prosecutor detailed his meeting with her, what he basically did said, does this check look familiar to you? She said, no, it doesn't. When she said that, he reminded her that it was in connection to a successful conviction for mortgage fraud. GG was SA's son. So the prosecutor locked away her son for conspiracy to commit mortgage fraud, and he was filing bankruptcy in the same she was during the same exact time she was. Wow. But the prosecutor said to me, or to the judge in my case, that GG, which is her son, he never disclosed that it was her son, by the way. He stated that this person, her son, only tried to help her with a loan modification way back when, but nothing ever came of it. So I went and pulled her mortgage, and I realized that her interest rate was 9.73% in 2006, when the highest rate was about 5%. Right. So I wrote 130 pages to the judge, basically saying, hey, look, either she was an accomplice to this or she's a victim of her own son, because if mortgage rates top out at 5%, how is hers 9.73?
So you're having to write it, though?
Yeah, I wrote it on my own. My attorney wasn't going to do anything, so I had to write it on my own. They just said that I'm guilty of 7 felony counts of bankruptcy fraud, which is a total of 65 years in prison. if he's not going to do anything, I have to do something. So I went and I wrote it and I did the research. Literally stayed up for 2 days, not exaggerating, 48 hours. I think I slept like a baby when it was all done. And it was realistically not even fear, but anger that pushed me through the whole 48 hours. Not only did I find out that he was her son, and the same prosecutor on my case prosecuted and locked away her son, him showing her that check for $8,000 and basically saying, hey, this is in connection to a successful conviction for mortgage fraud, that basically means that she's an accomplice and that he can come after her at any point he wants. He didn't have to say that to her. He just showed her the check. If you're going to show her a check that has nothing to do with my case, what other reason would you have for that besides intimidation? And that's what he did. So I give that to the new attorney. Well, I filed it on my own. It was 130 pages, including citing how prosecutorial misconduct works. You're not supposed to bring witnesses that are unreliable, that have a propensity to lie. If you locked away this lady's son and you are holding his future in your hand, what do you expect her to say when she comes to court against me? So after that happened, not only was he a prosecutor on her case or her son's case, he was a prosecutor on 2 other cases that had nothing to do with me, but had to do with the overall case. So
was your new attorney on board with helping you?
No. No, because the way attorneys see it, now he is now, we have a really great relationship now. But the way most attorneys see it is, who are you? I'm the one that went to law school. You can't tell me how this works. That's how they normally see it. When I met my 3rd attorney, it was tension at first because when I went and sat with him, he told me that there's no recording whatsoever. And I was kind of, well, what do you mean there's no recording? And he says to me, well, your previous attorney tells me that, you guys aren't working together because you recorded him. That's not true. We weren't working together because he would not meet with me for over 6 months. And then we went to trial blind and I was convicted because he couldn't do his job or he wasn't interested in doing his job. So I emptied out my briefcase on the new attorney's desk, turned off both phones, put everything in my car and said, I'm aware that you're my attorney and I have to tell you where the proverbial bodies are buried for you to do what's best for me. So why would I be recording you?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, it didn't make any sense. But we had a window still to file this motion for acquittal, but because he wasn't up to speed with the case, he wanted to order the transcript because people's memory isn't really the best. So he didn't expect me, and this is me speaking from my point of view, he didn't expect me to remember everything that happened in the trial, but I did.
Right.
And when the transcript came back, they backed up everything that I was saying. He wasn't aware that the prosecutor was intimidating one of the witnesses. He wasn't aware that there was a situation where they showed another lady who they used for relevant conduct. They showed her a picture of me, the gentleman, MH, that turned against me, and a picture of my wife as well. And the lady didn't recognize any of us, but they used that against me anyway and said, this is proof that Chris Coburn does this type of thing all the time because he did it for this lady. But they never disclosed the fact that they brought her in and they showed her pictures of us. And
so this attorney finally got on board.
Couldn't identify any of us. So if I'm helping this lady, right. So the new attorney, again, he caught up to speed and he's fighting for me now. We're in the middle of the appeal. And quite frankly, he didn't necessarily want me to even discuss this. But going through it for 2 years, there's nothing else that I could do besides talk about it, because if I didn't, I would go crazy. And that's the reason why I release the YouTube videos, because it's like, how do you know that you're innocent? You have proof that you're innocent and nobody wants to hear it.
I know. I think I told you yesterday, it's just, my heart beats very fast when I hear you talking about this, because it sounds like it's your typical, it's a nightmare. And people don't realize that it happens. I think it just happens people think that it happens on TV or in the movies, but it does happen to real people. And you're still going through it, right? I'm being cognizant of your time, by the way.
Right. No, you're fine.
You're still going through it.
Yes. Now, and here's where here's where it gets frustrating, because what I wanted my attorney to do is file a motion for ineffective counsel. It's really, really simple. If this guy would have been prepared, my previous attorney would have been prepared, there would be no conviction. So filing a motion for ineffective counsel would be the best bet. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. You have to go through the appellate process. The problem is the appeal is based on what happened at trial. So if my attorney didn't bring any kind of counter evidence or any kind of defense whatsoever to the trial, that's what the appeal will be based on. And the appellate judges will review the transcript and say, well, I don't see anything here that's worth appealing. That's what I'm guessing. Hopefully I'm wrong, but if they just look at the trial for what it is, the appeal won't work, and then we'll have to go the route that I felt we should have gone in the first place, but we just couldn't go there first. We have to go through this entire process. And it's funny because right before this happened, I was getting a license to actually be a loan officer. Can't do that because I'm a felon. Can't really just rent from anywhere because, again, I'm a felon. So there's not much that I can do, even though I have all this evidence that I'm innocent. I have to literally wait a year at least.
Is that
So
the time frame you're on right now? You have to
that's
wait.
at the least. If I'm lucky, it'll be a year.
So you're
Because
still, I think, because I had a lot of people ask questions after part one.
Mhm.
You're still in the throes of it. You're still fighting it through the system with your current attorney.
Well, yes, but here's the thing, because sentencing was December 9th. And sentencing, I was supposed to be sentenced to prison. That's what was supposed to happen. The prosecutor said that, okay, we won't ask for 65 years. How about we just give him a year and a day because he still says he's innocent. He won't apologize. He won't take responsibility. So you're actually penalized for maintaining your innocence, even if you have proof that you're innocent. So we get there, and the night before, I probably stayed up till 6:30 in the morning. Not again. If you talk to people closest to me, they'll tell you that not once was I ever afraid. I was upset. And I was upset because I shouldn't have to deal with it. I
Right.
wasn't afraid because I knew that I had the ability to articulate my point well enough to at least have someone listen. But I started to learn that it really didn't matter. So the night before, I stayed up because I was doing more research. They have what they call the pre-sentencing report, and they list all the things that the prosecution is using to sentence you. They had a gentleman there that said he remembers me because I filed bankruptcy for him, and I was a tall white man with glasses.
Wow.
That's who I am, a tall white man with glasses. And that was used to factor into the sentence. Uh, Another person claimed that he filled out a blank sheet of paper and that I printed a bankruptcy petition around his signature, his name, his date of birth, and everything else, and I filed it for him. That means that he would have to give me the blank sheet of paper, I'd have to stick it in a printer and print it perfectly the first time around. None of this made any sense. And again, I implore those that have the ability to look up the transcript, go take a look. What I'm saying is exactly what's in the transcript. So right before sentencing, I started to realize that the prosecution was adding more things that had nothing to do with me. And I told my attorney, I said, hey, look, this is what I found. See this person here? This is the same exact handwriting that MH had on his petitions. Why is this being used against me? This lady here said she never had anything to do with me. Here is the issue with everything that they're saying. We need to go fight for this in front of the judge. So my attorney says you have a level 14, even though you have no criminal record, when you're in a federal criminal proceeding, you're a level 14 criminal offender because you didn't take a plea deal, you didn't apologize, you didn't cooperate, all these things count against you. His thing was, let's argue for 2 levels of downward departure, so you probably only spend a couple months in prison. You won't go away for a year and a day. And I said, fine, let's argue it, but here's some more ammo. He shows it to the prosecutor right before sentencing while we were preparing for a 2-hour fight. And after he shows it to the prosecutor, he pulls me to the side and says, prosecutor doesn't want you to bring that in front of the judge. If you withdraw all your objections, they'll give you 4 levels of downward departure, meaning no jail time, just probation. I said, no, I want to fight this through because he's adding things here that have nothing to do with me.
Right.
My attorney sits me down. He says, listen, I don't think you understand. He said, no, I know you understand, but look at it this way. The judge would have to agree with everything we say for the next 2 hours to get you 2 levels of downward departure, which still may end up in some sort of jail time. But if you withdraw now and win this battle, or let's say in your eyes, lose this battle to win the war that's coming up, you should take the 4 levels of downward departure, take the probation, because it's a lot easier for you to fight and have these convictions overturned while you're home with your family.
Right.
Don't try to fight this here, end up in prison and have to file the appeal and go through this whole process in prison. Now, that's a good and a bad thing. The reason that it's a good thing is because I am home and there is no jail time. So you have to ask yourself, how do you get convicted of 7 felony counts, face 65 years in prison, and do no jail time whatsoever without cooperating? So because I'm not in jail, the appeals process takes longer. It's people that are in jail. I think he mentioned it. It was people that were in jail or people that are on death row. They get the first dibs at appeal. Then people that are incarcerated. Then people that are at home on probation.
So you're in the appeals process right
I'm
now.
in the appeals process right now.
Okay. So what do you have to do for that? Do you have to reintroduce the case? Do you have to go over the details again? I mean, has the prosecutors given you any indication that they don't want to move forward with the?
I don't know.
Yeah.
At this point, it's just kind of like a waiting game. And the best part about it is I'm actually able to work, as funny as that sounds. Because again, one of the hardest parts was with my partners before in the last 2 years. Let's say you would call me, Ted, and say, hey, Chris, let's talk. I'll say, yeah, Ted, no problem. I'll talk to you at 12:30. And then you never got that call. It's hard to explain that, well, you didn't get that call because I'm over here fighting for my life. Right. Now that jail is off the table, or prison is off the table, and I'm just going through the appellate phase, it feels good to return phone calls. It feels good to say, I can call you at 1 and actually be able to get it done, because I don't have to go through 12,000 pages of paperwork anymore. I don't have to do any of that. So I would implore people to definitely take a look at the YouTube series. I'll send you a link if you would like, so you can share it.
Absolutely. Please. Yeah. Put it on the, when you put it in the comments, when you share the show, put the link. What are you doing now before we head out? Because I know you have a call. What are you doing now to stay positive? How are you staying in the present, staying positive? Because not only do you have that that you're dealing with, we have all this COVID-19 stuff. So it's just this perfect, crazy storm, quote unquote. What are you doing to stay positive?
Well, I have a good supporting cast of characters. You know, Len, he's a good friend of mine. Veronica, they're good friends of mine. Elgin Perez, my wife, obviously. Mauricio Bedoya, he works with AFN. He actually gave me a position with AFN as a recruiter. And it allows me to actually make some money while I'm doing everything else that I do. So I have a really good list of people that assist me. One of my good friends, Idaru Sharif, he's helped me tremendously. I mean, at one point I was even living with him. So, I mean, it could be a lot worse. And I stay positive. And I'll tell you this, the reason that I'm as positive as I am is because in the year 2000, my older brother was murdered on Christmas Eve. A lot of people don't know that. People closest to me do. And after he was killed, I learned something. You can always change your life as long as you're still here to change it. So I went from being in the process of purchasing a home that was close to 5,000 square feet to being homeless. And if I didn't have my friends around me to help me, I don't know where I would be. So it's really just knowing that I have a good cast of people around me that keep me positive, keep me going.
Well, I mean, please keep fighting the good fight. I am inspired and moved by your story. I mean, I have to admit that it gives me a lot of agita. It makes me nervous and frustrated and all sorts of emotions. I just think it's amazing that you are keeping your head above water and are willing to be vulnerable and share your journey. And so you have to come back when you have news.
I will. I'll keep you guys posted. That's part of the reason I started the YouTube channel, because I can't let this happen to other people. Even though when I was younger, I was told I should be an attorney. I refused to do it because I'm afraid of student loan debt. but it's actually something that I'm going to pursue. And that's another reason I want these charges overturned, because I want to be able to help people that can't help themselves, because I was in the middle of it. And I'm going to send you some paperwork. I'm talking about tangible proof that I'm innocent, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
At all.
It just blows my mind. All right. You've got a call. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for doing 2 shows and sharing your heart and sharing your journey. I had tons and tons of comments. So please share the whatever link you want. You want to share the link to the long series, the YouTube that you did, all the parts, whatever you want to share with the audience. I'm sure they would love it. So thank you, my friend, for coming on and sharing everything.
Thank you, Ted. And thanks for having me again. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon. You take care, my friend.
You too. Bye.
Bye, guys.